So Uncle Chijai was his name, Ludger. He's the one that owned Palmy Dye House when the French woman died. And
did she have rooms upstairs that she rented out? Or?
No, that's where they had their own place in their building. No, she had her home housing there.
She lived upstairs?
Mrs. Palmy, yeah. They had a nice place.
Did they build the St. Francis that was right next door?
No, I don't remember that. I don't know nothing about that.
Yeah.
But otherwise, we knew all the girls. So we'd laugh like hell. We got it, where the place is on near Pekin's, right across the street from Pekin's. They got a joint there now. There's a big flat there, and the last year ago, St. Patrick's Day, somebody opened that up and made a joint out of it. It's right on the corner.
Times.
Yeah, and so we knew some people that was running there, but I'm just saying how the places have built that. I know them because I was old enough. We wore the stairs out of Pekin's. We'd go, I ate Pekins sometimes two times a day. If a guy would bring me up for dinner, some old guy that was working in the mine knew my family so well, and they'd say, go up to town, and they have streetcars then, and they'd say, did you have dinner yet, Mary? My mother'd say, not much. They'd go back up and eat twice. I can remember when we on Grand Avenue, the brick house is still there, and my aunt lived in that. Mrs. She owned a cleaning place for years and years. But anyway, they used to always. My mother and her, we had buggies then. That's all we had is big wicker buggies that they push you all over town. And so my mother would take and they'd each cook a dozen hard-boiled eggs to come up to Pekin's to eat with their noodles. I always had a dozen eggs. I always take a dozen hard-boiled eggs. Oh, God.
Well, where did your dad go to get his Chinese treatment for his back? Did he come here to
in Butte. He went to a Chinese doctor here.
Do you remember that person's name?
Well, no, I couldn't remember that, no.
So where was that?
But it was uptown, in this bigger part of town, But there was no town then much. And then when you had, there was Spillum's. Spillum had his joint down on the corner of Park and Main. And all them places like that, we knew quite well. There used to be a lot of gambling joints down there where the M&M is at and all them. They're pretty good gambling joints. The cops were always there. They'd get together and have a fight, and the guy'd get $10 for breaking up the fight. Well, by that time it was over, there'd be two cops fighting because he wanted the $10. No shit. And they'd be even stealing each other's gloves. I used to run the Doughnut Shop. You remember the Doughnut Shop right in front of there? Yeah, on Park and Main. It's burnt down now. I owned that for 20 years. I worked there 25 years. When Bill Sullivan and John Nolan owned the building, and he had the the donut machine in the window.
Right.
We used to make the dough, and we'd sell sometimes 60 dozen donuts a day, and they were 25 cents a dozen without sugar. Sugar was 30 cents, and we'd sell them. Holy crap! Montana Power was right down below the street there. The sheriff's office was right in the alley, because the sheriff was right down the alley, because the cops would come in to my place 6 o'clock in the morning to have coffee, because it was time to have something to eat. And they'd come into the shop and have a cup of coffee and a cigarette. I never learned to smoke. I used to go home and try and smoke a cigarette and have a cup of coffee. Didn't taste very good.
What was the name of your shop?
It was just called the Doughnut Shop. The Doughnut Shop.
Uh-huh.
And it was right on Broadway. Right across the street from that gambling joint. We used to go there and buy tickets, remember? What was the name of that place?
Clifford's.
Yeah, Clifford's. We used to go to Clifford's, and we'd go there and shake lottery, like, shake bigs, and then I won $275 and went to California one day on my ticket.
What year was that, you think you won?
Oh, that was a long time ago. I was still working at the Doughnut Shop because I took 2 weeks off to go to down there with the Elks. The Elks had a convention in California, and that was enough for me to go down there.
That was a big win then.
Yeah, it was. I went down on that train, and we ran short of beer on the train, so we stopped in some place where the train was going to stop. Well, that beer had that much yeast in the goddamn thing, and we take a drink of that beer, boy, your head felt like it was going to fall off, boy. They called me. They had a name for me because I was drinking all the beer. Oh boy.
You had a good time?
Oh yeah. Always a good time at the ball game because they'd be mad at me and they'd swear at me. Don't sit there at Rosie. And Rosie Desjordins that was married then. And they'd hang and say, we're not going to sit in that place tonight because that old lady hit you on the head. That was, one of them, she was from Meterville because one of her sons was playing in the team. And I was hollering at him and, oh boy.
Well, do you remember Chinatown very well?
Oh yeah, China. Chinatown, they still say they got part of Chinatown down in the alley, where Pekin is. And right next door there was where the Maywa was right down the other street, Straight Street there. And they had a joint there where they go in and smoke a pipe. They'd go into this bend. They had little places like that, and they'd go in there and rent that room and stay there and smoke that pipe all for 2 or 3 hours, and then they'd give the pipe back and that right at Pekin's, right in Pekin's alley. They did that. They're still there. They say if you wanted to dig in there, you find those cribs down there.
Now, everybody would use that, or just Chinese?
No, that was a personal person would go in and smoke his pipe. Nobody else, just one person would do that.
I see.
But this other, it was your restaurant.
I see.
And the different one, Maywa, it was pretty good. And then the one at Pekin, she used to, there was one guy had a hole poked in the wall like that. And then a big table like this, and he had a big round thing and to make noodles flat, He'd get there and he'd dance on one leg like that, and that table would go around, and that's how he used to make his noodles.
Did you know any Chinese people?
Oh yeah. And then Hank always used to tease this old girl that was the boss. Well, that was the mother of this guy. I think this was their late one. And he'd say, ain't you ever going to get married, for God's sakes? You got your old man down there in the cooler. Why in the hell don't you get married? Well, they kept, the guy that was the head one of the Pekins, he stayed here for a year before they shipped him across to China.
After he died?
After he died, he stayed there here a year.
Yeah.
And then they took him to China to bury him. But she never got married. She eventually went. That was one of her kids. We went to school with one of you. She had a boy in high school, and he used to be with our crowd, But he was Chinese. And every time they had something going on, we'd always have a little Chinese drink of something, Chinese wine.
Did you go?
And on Christmas, you always got a box like that, one of the penny boxes, the papers, and there'd be all different nuts and the stuff that they used to eat, the pecans, and they'd always give you something like that.